Hello and happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. Now, right now, as you can tell, I'm solo, but that's because Fuzzy Belvedere, who was sent the link on time, is having some computer issues. So he's probably going to reset his PC. We'll get him back here momentarily. But good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Finally, Doom the Dark Ages releases into early access tonight here in the New York area at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Obviously, that's going to change for your region. But hey, there he is, the best bald head in the business, Fuzzy Belvedere. What's going on, brother? How you feeling?
Not too bad. Sorry for being a little late on the road again. So trying to get everything to sync up while getting ready.
Well, you look good, you sound good, and want to welcome you here to, obviously we have a big show. We have three monster-sized topics to get into, folks. And you know what? I got to tell you, if there's one thing that I can say about 2025, despite it being only the fifth month of the year, right? Like, we're not even at the halfway mark, Fuzzy Belvedere. But there are two, I think, things that jump off the page. Now, if you are a gamer only, let's say, for instance, you don't have podcasts or you don't show up to other people's podcasts to hang out on, I'm talking about like speak on camera. There has been a ridiculous amount of games to the point where I think everyone that you ask is having a real difficult time trying to lock in to what they're playing. Um, and I got to tell you, I'm doing the cardinal sin of gaming. I am going from one game to the other without finishing it. Now, obviously, for me, Doom the Dark Ages, the review, it's going to go up tonight at 8 p.m. I'll explain what happened with that, or, with the Ask Me Anything, why I had to take it down. But I had to review Doom, and I still didn't finish the game. Now, I am about 5 chapters from finishing it, and it's amazing. It's a long game. You're going to be at this game for hours, especially if you're like me and you like looking for collectibles. But I keep seeing people like talking about Expedition 33. I'm not going to front. I'm kind of jelly. I have not been able to play it, and I am still in the underwater level. I should be ashamed of myself, but again, I had to review Doom, and I've heard people say the end of chapter one is life changing. I've heard people talk about beating the game. Lord Cognito beat it. Randall Thor beat it. 10 out of 10 he gave it. Now, you know how a stickler Randall Thor 19 can be, and he gave it a 10 out of 10. It's probably going to be game of the year. I'm so happy for that studio. And the other side of the coin, Fuzzy Belvedere, is the gaming news has just been non-stop. So I'm glad that you can join us. I know that you're on the road. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me for the next 70-ish minutes. But Fuzzy Belvedere, let's get into a topic that I think is super important. Now, Jason Ronald, and we all know who Jason Ronald is. Jason Ronald is a prominent member of Xbox and its development community. He is currently the vice president of Xbox gaming device and the ecosystem itself. He is hard at work to deliver the next generation of Xbox home consoles that is expected to be very PC-like, but also a plug-and-play device. And again, we will see. And most of us, including myself, was wrong. I thought it was happening next year to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Xbox, the brand, but it's unfortunately going to be, held off until at least 2026. And there's a lot of reasons for it. But I think on the down low, Jason Ronald put out a post that I think a lot of people overlooked, but we didn't hear at Double Barrel Gaming. And I'm going to read his post verbatim. It says, "Are you passionate about game preservation? Do you want to tackle some of the hardest engineering problems while enabling new generations to play games from the past? A great new role just opened up in one of my favorite teams here at Xbox, and there's more details here at job.careers.microsoft.com." And of course, a good friend of the channel, a great friend of the community, Clute, responded to him, politely and said, "I wish we could play these delisted games like Stranglehold." And he put a bunch of games. Now, why this story is important to open up with is it's talking about backwards compatibility, Fuzzy. This is one of those um I think it's one of these additions, ladies and gentlemen, that get overlooked at what Xbox does really great, right? Like they are really serious about game preservation. They don't charge you to play older games unless you don't own them and you want to buy them. They give you the ability through Xbox to buy old games and you play them on your new consoles, and you are greeted, Fuzzy Belvedere, with HDR boost and FPS boost and all the bells and whistles that you would normally find like on a PC, but you get that on your home console. And this is obviously I mean, I guess it's a flare shot in the air about them not only continuing game preservation into the future, but it's also a role that opened up. And again, I mean, it's a singular role, so I don't know how many people they need on this team, but the way it sounded is like it's a role for a person who is passionate about older games being able to be played on newer consoles. And I think that's crazy important because when you look at how Nintendo does things, right? Nintendo, they're penny pinchers, right? They nickel and dime you left, right, and center. I know that there is on nearly 300 people here, and if you're a Nintendo fan like me, please raise your hand in embarrassment. How many times you bought Super Mario Brothers 3 or Super Mario Brothers to play on your console? I know I bought it quite a few times. Now you say to yourself, "Well, boom, why do you do you punish yourself by buying these games?" Ultimately, it's I'm a fan, right? So whenever they moved on to a console, it wasn't like Xbox where, your content moved with you. You had to buy these games and we all bought them. And maybe you didn't, but I certainly did. PlayStation is again, they're not as bad as Nintendo, but they do lock their classic games from PlayStation 1, 2 and and some of the older, I don't know if even 3 some of the games on 3 are playable. They're playable via the cloud, but you can't download them. And that's a paywall. If you want to play those old games, you got to play them obviously through PlayStation Plus. And Fuzzy, again, this is certainly not the biggest topic of the show for sure. There's no doubt about it, but I do think it's a relevant conversation to have on how important backwards compatibility is, and the fact that they're continuing their strides to make sure that it is in fact a thing for next generation is super important. Let's get your thoughts on this, man.
Well, yeah, the minute I saw that post, it kind of harkens to with them having the handheld coming out hopefully later this year, the partnership with ROG Ally and everything. Um, that's going to be a big thing. I'm hoping they can have some console compatibility as far as like some older titles that were like launch titles like Rise, Son of Rome, and things like that being playable. But I know that that's more so the target for their actual branded handheld. It'll probably be 26, 27 as far as its release. But yeah, having that backwards compatibility, it was a bit of a shame when they kind of let everybody know that they scale things back in the process of acquiring ABK, and now that they own ABK, having this announcement that they're still working on backwards compatibility, that they're making that return to it, is very promising, because there are a lot of titles within the ABK library that they've been trickling into like the Game Pass subscription. We've seen some of them get updates or remasters and things along those lines. But when it comes to the grand scheme of things, this is something that we all should champion and cheer for them returning to. So that way, some of the stuff that's in our library, some of the stuff that we may have missed purchasing at previous console cycles and things like that, will still be accessible even on the newest hardware. And that was probably one of the biggest things when the series consoles came out, having that backwards compatibility, having things like smart delivery, so you didn't have to pay for $10 upgrades for FPS boost or HDR boost and things along those lines. So them returning to it, it's a great sign, promising for the future as far as their handheld partnered console, their upcoming next generation console, as well as their full on branded Xbox handheld console. So little excited, some goosebumps involved with it. But I'm hoping they can get some more of that stuff, lined up in time for the handheld, because that's the biggest thing I'm looking forward to. There's probably like 600 titles I have when it comes to console titles that aren't not 600 that aren't on available on PC, but to get some of that dual entitlement for some of the earlier titles I have, things like Dead Rising 2 or stuff like that would be awesome. And the fact that they're going to bring those forward to the new hardware. I don't necessarily have to keep my old consoles, although I tend to. Like I very rarely trade in my older consoles.
I have all of them. My storage is loaded with them. It's almost to the point where why?
Yeah. but a program like this does make it a little bit more tempting to trade in. Maybe if you have like what I had, like 2 Series X's and 2 Series S consoles. So one Series S console is probably going to go the wayside for the next generation, or maybe for that handheld. My second Series X already went to the wayside for my MetaQuest 3. So having that forward compatibility stuff, I'll be more willing to part with at least my one of the 2 Series S's I still have. So we'll see how things go, but great to see him make that post. I'm looking forward to when either he, makes the announcement on something handheld related, or Sarah Bond makes an announcement on the upcoming handheld. But yeah, having that forward compatibility for the titles we already own or that are already in the subscription moving forward, it's a great sign. And, it's what us as gamers should always be happy about.
Listen, again, they're not charging you for it. And I think that ultimately is really the talking point. And, shout out to the Ruham. He said basically regarding my comment about Sony's paywall for old games. I get it, brother. No one's piling on the rabbit, so to speak, with Sony. It's an additive to their service. You do get a chance to play old games on your new hardware. Here's the problem, though. The problem, unlike what Xbox does, is you are literally you have your PlayStation 5 or your PlayStation 5 Pro and you love it. Okay, that's awesome. I'm glad people do. But the problem is that you are literally playing an emulated version of the PlayStation 1 game or PlayStation 2. So if you play Twisted Metal 1, you are literally playing Twisted Metal 1 from the PlayStation 1 era, with no advancements whatsoever, and that's locked behind a paywall. I don't know, and I don't think you can. If you have a disc, let's say for instance you own the disc, can anyone confirm that you can play that on your PS5? Because I don't think that you can. So
other than PS4 titles, no.
So you're locked out of PS1, PS2, PS3 games. So unlike Xbox, now if you have a copy of Fusion Frenzy and it's backwards compatible, and it looks pretty damn good, that actually works. That is the difference. And that's why this program being confirmed or reconfirmed to being a big part of what they're doing for next generation is incredibly important. I think game preservation gets overlooked because everyone is so quick to want to buy an old game to play on a new console. And Xbox, at least in my opinion, does not get enough credit for doing the extra, if you will. I mean, that's just my thoughts on it. Again, not the biggest topic of the day for sure, but game preservation is super important. Now, let me just kind of give everyone an update as to what happened to the Ask Me Anything for Doom the Dark Ages. Well, apparently, I read the embargo paperwork 5 times, and I got it wrong. What they did not want was gameplay that wasn't cut up. Now, I did do some cutting, and I didn't play it in its entirety because you saw that how it made like a warping kind of a look to it. So Bethesda PR, and they're great folks, were super understanding. They were completely on the same page as me. So they asked me to take it down because they didn't want the first level being shown. Now, again, that's my fault. That's not a Bethesda thing. That is a Mr. BoomStick XL thing. I am going to be able to re-upload that today at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is going to go up as a premiere. I know it was live for a little while, but they politely asked me to take it down, and I did. Me and Bethesda, we're still cool. There was no harm, no foul. Again, the embargo paperwork was very confusion. I've never, ever in 8 years doing the channel ever had an issue by doing an Ask Me Anything. I've done, I think, 4 or 5 of them, and they've always been awesome. This one actually was probably my favorite. I went 58 minutes, answered a bunch of questions, had no issues. It was actually my favorite that I've done so far. Unfortunately, I had to take it down, which is okay. No harm, no foul. I'm not in trouble with Bethesda. I'm still working with them. We're still cool. But I did want to kind of give everyone a heads up that at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I did reach out to my PR handler, and she's awesome. And she got back to me and says, "Yep, you can upload it as soon as it goes into early access, and we're good." So tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if you want to see my review of the Doom, the Dark Ages review and the Ask Me Anything, again, it will be available at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is awesome. But look, Fuzzy, last week, and I think it was on this very program, you sent this to me, and I feel almost condemned to talk about it. So let me break it down. Now, one of the things that we like doing here at Double Barrel Gaming is we like keeping it PG-13 for a lot of reasons. Every now and again, I get into my feelings and I'll drop an F-bomb. And I want you to know, folks, I hate myself the next day. I honestly do. But Fuzzy Belvedere and I last week specifically talked about the Grand Theft Auto 6 delay. And we said that it could be an opening for a big Xbox game to fill the void this fall, right? Now, Fable got delayed for, well, we don't really know why it got delayed. It's simply they need more time, give the team more time. And we talked about that last week. It worked super well for Starfield, and I think even better for Avowed. So, Fable 2026, we don't know when, but if I'm a betting kind of a guy, I think we see a developer direct in February of 2026, and then we might get a March or an April release for the game. And that would be great, right? But Fuzzy, you and I specifically kind of pointed out inXile's Clockwork Revolution, right? We said that this game, when it was showed off a couple of years ago, looked not only really good, but I mean, very well done. Like it looked, I know there was some, CG in there, but there was gameplay, and that gameplay it looked like legit. So the next day, I saw it, but I didn't message Fuzzy right away. Fuzzy immediately messaged me and said, "Boom, were they listening?" And who are they? That's inXile Entertainment. And if there's one thing that we know about them, is that they're very in tune to the community. Their stunts on Twitter are hilarious. And I think that every time they do it, Fuzzy Belvedere, we all just watch it multiple times in laughter. Like the one they did with the wizard was hilarious. I think it was wizard shit is what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's hilarious. And
Yeah.
they always seem to strike a chord with the gamers. They, again, there's a lot of parody stuff that goes on. They have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun as the community watching what they do. Well, interestingly enough, after having that conversation here on the air with Fuzzy Belvedere, inXile tweeted this, and it's some information regarding Clockwork Revolution's development. Apparently, the team is made up of 110 people, which is not a lot, to be honest with you. It's 110 people making this game. Obviously, this 110 person team is working on Clockwork Revolution. It is an RPG. It is led by Brian Fargo, who was credited with Wasteland. Chad Moore, he made Arcanum, and VTM Bloodlines, and Jason Anderson, who helped with Fallout 1 and 2. So this team, besides the 110 people, has amazing leadership. And I'm just going to read some of the comments here. People are excited for this because it's in Exile. I said that this looked like a steampunk version of what the hell's the name of the game? BioShock. When we saw it, and BioShock's one of my favorite games. This, of course, it's not like BioShock, but it does look pretty damn close. And it's steampunk, and it's got robots, and it's got time travel. I think it's going to be a hit for sure. It is an original new IP for Xbox. Whether that stays exclusive or not, I don't think is even a conversation I'm willing to have, because at this point, I don't know why we're surprised that games are going to PlayStation. Xbox wants to make money. It's just is what it is, folks, and it's fine. But some of the commentary here, Cheeto Gaming Live said, "Are we getting news next month?" Meaning, of course, the June showcase. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to step out on this ledge here, Fuzzy Belvedere, and just say that just based on this tweet, yes, we are going to see some gameplay at the June showcase. I think this shows up in a big, big way. And I would even be willing to put 1 foot off the edge of madness and say that we get a release date for this year. But of course, I could be wrong. We had Nick Pro Reborn YT says, "This looks cool. Neat testers. NDA, my soul." And of course, Xbox Originals asks, "New trailer on June 8th. Holly, a good friend of the community, great member of the podcast community, said, "This is one of my most anticipated games next to Judas. Can't wait." Jay Duke, who is, of course, Mr. Starfield, says he's so excited for this one. We have here Max, which is XO Gamer 117, says, "I'm really looking forward to your game." Jay's World says, "Will we see this at the showcase?" And that seems to be the running conversation. TJ Tech says, "I'm so excited to get this game. Will we get a release date for it?" Of course, and that seems to be the thing. And Fuzzy Belvedere, again, I'm not a coincidence kind of a guy. I'm just not. And I don't know if they would fly me out to wherever they are, but if they ever needed someone as a stand-in to be in one of their skits, I'm retired, folks, and I got a mohawk, so I definitely would look good on camera for sure. We can bring Fuzzy. He's got the best bald head in the business. You can use this as for wizard shit or whatever you want to use us, but it's fine. Fuzzy Belvedere, let's talk about this, because Clockwork Revolution is a new IP. It's an original IP. It's by In Exile. In Exile is an amazing studio. And, again, this is just my thoughts and my theories. I could be 1,000% wrong. But every time Xbox has purchased a studio, it's usually because of a game that they're currently working on that they find to be like incredible, right? We heard that happen with Fable, right? We heard, which of course is Playground. We heard that happen with South of Midnight, with Compulsion Games, right? That we've heard this kind of story, that we have Phil Spencer showing up to their studio. He's shown a game that's in super early development, and I guess he takes what he had, what his findings, and he goes back and he decides, we need to make them a team. And I don't know for sure, but it kind of sounds a bit similar. Let's talk about it, Fuzzy Belvedere. Again, I'm not into coincidences, and I can't say for sure if they were listening, but man, for us to have that conversation and for the next day to have this drop, I don't know, man. I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit here. Let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, They were quiet about the game for a good bit. They've been marketing a lot of other stuff that's Xbox related and some of their other titles like with Wasteland and stuff like that. But we haven't really heard much as far as Clockwork Revolution for months on end. Started talking about it, and it's like, oh, next day there's a post. It's like, really? So, yeah, coincidence or not, it's really perfect timing. Just with the June showcase right around the corner, was it 3 weeks away or so? So, looking forward to that. But to have them, start talking about it again, that's part of the buildup as far as the hype. Like I've seen them hype up other games for other studios within the Xbox family. Days before they'll either have like a funny skit or something along those lines. So I think this is kind of like their first throw out there to say, hey, remember us? Yeah, we got this game coming, and just to drop a hint. So it's like, oh yeah, I can't wait to play that game. And we already know Doom is out there, in a matter of days for some of us that didn't do the early access and stuff. But we have a lot of other games coming this year, and that one, especially with considering Grand Theft Auto 6 not being a 25 game, this is one of the ones like you said you brought up that could easily slot in there as potentially being this year. I mean, it's already been a loaded year. Like if you were to even just cut off the year as far as their releases for what we know to this day, up to like, was it COD? I would say that's a banger year, but I don't think Xbox is anywhere near done. I think they're going to drop at least two more, big titles on us before this year is out, or at least ones that are one from their first party family, and then maybe a second party deal or partnership, or even a third party deal that's been silent or something like that, kind of like a Silk Song or something. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Clockwork Revolution. I think the biggest thing now is that they're starting to talk about it. Give us an idea of the team that's on it. I haven't checked to see how many other members they may have working on other potential projects, because we also, I think, touched on like, well, In Exile is one of those teams that if there was a Fallout 5 potentially in the process, or maybe even a remastering of 1 and 2, they would be a perfect studio to kind of handle that as well. But if all of their hands on deck are tied up working on Clockwork Revolution, that's probably their big priority. That's going to be the next thing that's coming out of their doors. So timing, yeah, coincidence, but maybe we should have played the lottery that night and seen if the that coincidence was more than just a one time thing. But yeah, I'm glad to hear them talking about it. Looking forward to this game. Looking forward to the June showcase. Hopefully we get to see some more, and I think we do get a release date this year or not. I don't know, but I think we do get at least a release date at the next showing, probably in June. So we'll see.
Well, I mean, listen, um, just from an optics point of view, right? We've all gushed at what has happened in 2025 from January 1st to where we currently are in May, right? And it has been a nonstop barrage of Xbox games, especially on Xbox Game Pass, with indies, with third party, with second party, and with their own first party from Xbox Game Studios. And like I said, folks, this we weren't originally going to have this conversation. This is just something that happened that Fuzzy sent me, and I'm like, yeah, we got to talk about this. And if you just look at what is coming out in 2026, the deck is so stacked right now, it doesn't even seem fair. Like, I know Xbox is, they have a lot of studios, and I'm sure PlayStation's gonna have a couple games. Maybe they have one, maybe they have two. 2026 obviously is gonna be big for a lot of reasons. Grand Theft Auto 6 is gonna be there. That's happening next May. That's gonna be monster sized. I'm sure Nintendo has a bunch of bangers lined up for the Switch 2. But when you look at the big three and you just specifically look at Xbox, Fuzzy, they have so many games on tap. Again, we all believe that State of Decay 3 is next year, right? It's a good chance that Perfect Dark could be next year, on top of Gears of War E-Day, a new Call of Duty, right? I mean, the list just keeps going on and on. So this is one of those games that has again, it's not going to be overshadowed. It's an exile game, but here's the thing: it's 2026 is so stacked. If this game is ready to go second half of this year, they should put it out because the game looks a freaking amazing. And I think that not only, and again, I'm walking out on the razor's edge here, folks, and I could be 1,000% wrong. And if so, then so be it. But I honestly believe that it's going to show up in a couple of weeks at the June showcase, which of course I'm going to be there at the Community Fan Fest. I'm so excited to be in LA to hang out with all the fans and all the Xbox community. But I think we're going to get a release date for this year simply because Grand Theft Auto has been kind of politely moved into next year. I just think that maybe the plan was not to get in any way, what shape or form to get, be a part of anywhere where Grand Theft Auto 6 is releasing. But the fact that it is not releasing this year, second half of the year is wide open. And I think that Xbox might have a lot of games that they could release. This is being one of them. I don't see why not. If it's ready, release it. But we will certainly see. So Fuzzy Belvedere, every time there's an opportunity to be disappointed by games media, well, they always seem to step in it. So over the weekend, Christopher Dring, yeah, that guy, got himself in a bit of hot water, as he always does. And one of the things I find odd with Christopher is his unrelenting hard on for Xbox. Pause. I don't know what Xbox did to him as a journalist or as a little boy growing up, that he, at every angle, every opportunity, every chance, just tries to take a giant shit on Xbox. That is just who he is, and that is just what he does. And why are we bringing this up? Well, because the games industry kind of put him on blast. I have a couple of quotes here. So, first of all, let's I want to bring up exactly what he said that got him in trouble. So a report came in from WCCF Tech where it says the current Xbox multi-platform strategy is leaving certain publishers and developers baffled. So much so that they no longer see the need to develop Xbox versions of their games for the platform, which is unbelievable rubbish. And it's, again, WCCF Tech is pretty credible, right? Like they're not a fly by night website. They get it wrong a lot, but they also get it right as well. And they posted this based on a podcast with Christopher Dring. And again, just talking about some of the industry, some of his peers, they responded to this. So Garrett the Gamer Atkins, if you don't know who he is the owner of Gaming News, VGT Gaming News. And Fuzzy Belvedere, he responded directly to Christopher Dring by quote tweeting this WCCF Tech announcement. And he says this: the vast majority of developers I'm speaking to do not think this. In fact, the vast majority of literal developers don't have a say in the matter at all. The publishers do, where applicable, and every publisher that I'm aware of cares about putting their games on Xbox. But you see, he wasn't the only one to respond. And I think that if there's anyone who really stands for everything when it comes to game development and its community. It is very AFK, at Cromwelp. Now, if you don't know who he is, well, he publishes video games and he is the head of the studio for Larian.com. We know what Larian, obviously, they made Baldur's Gate 3, which is an award winning game. Not so much for me, but I know a lot of people really love that game. And you know what? I mean, he is a very vocal part of the gaming development community as well as the regular community. And he summed it up pretty short and sweet. And he says, "Who is baffled? LOL." And that is ultimately where we stand. Every opportunity that Christopher Dring has to dump on Xbox or dunk on Xbox or whatever you want to say that fits your narrative, he talks about these publishers, these unnamed mythical publishers who are the same ones that are always talking to him. I don't know who he's talking about, to be honest with you. In fact, I don't think anyone knows. I would even dare say maybe he doesn't know who he's talking about personally, because I listen, no one's going to give up their sources, but it's always the same rhetoric with this dude, Fuzzy Belvedere. And you know what? He's not the only journalist that consistently goes after Xbox, no matter what they do. Like, I've said this before, and I really mean this. If they came out tomorrow and they, through video game magic, figured out the cure to cancer, right? They would be scoffed upon as to why didn't you do this sooner? Forget the fact that they figured they cured it, but they would be like, why didn't you do it sooner? And that, again, they're pro-consumer, right? Okay, they're having trouble selling a console, big deal. But do they give the gamers value for their subscription service? Sure. Do they make backwards compatibility a priority? Sure. Do all of their peripherals work with their new and older controllers? Yes, they do. They do so many things right. And now, one of the biggest complaints for Xbox gamers has been for years. They don't have single player, story driven, good looking, adult themed type of games. And now they're hitting on all cylinders there as well. So you're getting value in your service, you're getting first party games that are bangers, you're getting single player, story driven games that are the over the shoulder, Sony looking type of games. You're getting backwards compatibility. You're getting visual upgrades to older games for free. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. My question to you, Fuzzy Belvedere, is why does Christopher Dring continue to just sing the same goddamn song?
You made light of it earlier, where they must have did something to him when he was a young boy playing video games or something. Maybe they pissed in his Cheerios, or banned his account for being toxic or something. Whatever the case may be, he definitely has something to hold against Xbox for whatever reason. But I think it's almost like he wants to put it into the realm, or into the space by speaking about it. So maybe if he says it enough, it becomes true, kind of thing. But it always seems like no matter what Xbox does, he's always talking to people that are like, yeah, they're not going to put games on there anymore. And it's like, well, who are you talking to? Are you talking to the I forget that one title that was supposed to be for Xbox originally, but then they went with doing a PS5 exclusive, and it was made in Unreal Engine 5, and it was like the
Oh, you're
biggest
talking about the one with the firefighter that wound up being the worst game ever made? Yes, that one. Yes. That was the
So I
one
mean,
publisher.
maybe he's talking to developers like that the game not being on Xbox, it's like Xbox players are like, good, keep it, good riddance, kind of thing. But in the grand scheme of things, maybe he's not quite accepted their multi-platform approach. I know it is still confusing to a lot of hardcore fans to some extent. We've already made our piece to it with it, as far as as long as the games are still coming to Game Pass day and date, part of the subscription. The fact that they continue to produce a lot of games, good quality games, on a pretty consistent basis. This year being the biggest breakout. Like they really started around, I guess it was April of last year. But moving forward from there, it's been like nonstop to the point where people's backlogs are starting to pile up, kind of thing. But it's a great problem to have. But instead of focusing on the fact that Xbox is bringing a lot of games to the consumer, he's focused on, well, these devs, you know, that I've had a beer with say that they're not going to put a game on here anymore, or that it's baffling. It's like, no, like, and see, the funny thing is, some of the people that we know in the background that have been developers or have worked on different teams, the biggest thing that all of them usually say is they want as many people playing their game as possible. Now, if
Right.
that means if it's on multiple platforms or a platform with a lot of, you know, users, whatever the case may be, they just want their creation in front of as many people as possible. So I don't know why Christopher Dring doesn't quite understand that, or maybe the developers that he's talking to don't quite understand that. But I think just looking at this year in general, because there are games that aren't on every platform that came directly to Xbox and day and date and everything. Will they come to other platforms at a later date? Sure, possibly. But I think the big takeaway is either he's talking to, I guess you could say, the fanboy developers, which we've seen a handful of them out there. They're like, oh, the Series S is a potato, and you know, and then they come to find out that they can actually, you know, optimize the game better from using the Series S tools to, you know, moving forward as far as those things are concerned. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I don't quite understand why he's so like focused on Xbox's different approach on things, as if it's some sort of left field thing that nobody seems to understand, not even Xbox themselves. But yet their rating as a publisher is going up. Their monthly active users is going up. Their participation, or as far as users on their platform as well as other various platforms, is going up as far as for their games. Even if the games are 4 and 5 years old, there's like that's the biggest thing that's funny. It's like there's more people playing some of the remasters or recently released on other platform titles than there are on that same platform's brand new releases. So I Christopher Dring tends to step in it a lot. He said this before. I think it was like in between the Baldur's Gate and the Black Myth Wukong controversy time frame, that a lot of publishers were going to abandon Xbox because of this approach. But it doesn't make sense, because if you're a third party publisher to begin with, it just comes down to how difficult would it be to port the game. So porting, if you've already ported it for PS5 and you're porting it to PC, porting it from PC to Xbox is a lot simpler than a lot of people would think. Porting a game from PC, which most games are created on PC, the PlayStation 5 is probably the most difficult aspect when it comes to being a developer, if you're more PC focused. But if you're already console focused and your priority was PlayStation 5, and then you want to make a little extra money by either more sales or from a subscription potentially type of thing, then porting it to PC, once you do that, the Xbox code, to my understanding, especially the more recent setup as far as for the Series X consoles, as opposed to the I forget what it was called. It was like W something type of setup that they used to use. But considering how that new code is set up, it's like a couple of quick steps to go from PC to Xbox these days. So it makes no sense for them to abandon that if they're already putting stuff on PC. But what do I know?
No, I just find it to be silly. I know there's gonna be some people in the chat, and again, the chat's going so quick. I might have missed somebody that said this. Why you guys always talking about the press, and and do you bring? Listen, I think that this needs to be discussed, folks. Again, I don't get paid by Xbox. I'm a podcaster. I do this for fun. I'm retired. Fuzzy's retired. We get a chance to hang out twice a week and talk about video games. But this is a story. And the more people poo-poo it and don't, challenge the, journalistic community, the more this continues to happen. And if they listen, if I think that I'm not the only one talking about it, And I just think that it needs to be discussed. Again, it's not the major part of today's show. We have another major topic to get into, and we've had two fun ones to open up. But I think that this is worthy of a conversation. And again, if you don't, I hear you. I'm not going to fight you on it. Not everything that we talk about you're going to be a fan of, but I do think that this does need to be discussed, at least in my opinion. And again, if you don't agree, I that's fine. We're not always going to agree on everything. But I do this is a big topic. The next one is a big topic. We're going to get into it in a second, but let me just catch up on two super chats here. We have Gamer by Choice drops a very generous $5 super chat. Gamer by Choice goes on to say, politics and social media has shown us that people do not need the truth as long as the narrative coincides with your beliefs. It's a sad time. Yeah, I mean, and gaming media is no different. I think the gaming media needs to consistently be checked, folks. I'm sorry. Maybe it's not the kind of podcast you like to listen to, and if it's not, I apologize. But when the media makes a mistake, rest assured, I'm gonna check them. I'm not gonna check them into the glass, but I'm gonna check them nonetheless, because I think that we need to do that. Especially because, and again, this is just my take on it. And again, maybe it's being a little bit, facetious, if you will, but games media is afraid of people like us because we have an audience and we do this for fun. Like, we're not doing this to pay the rent, right? We're here hanging out with you 5 days a week for Double Barrel Gaming's 5 different podcasts and breaking news whenever it drops, right? I'm going to be dropping all of the unboxing. I'm literally putting that video together. It took me 3 hours to film. I think it's 3 hours, maybe even a little bit more of filming. And I think it's about 10 minutes because obviously, you got to get the lighting right. I'm going to be honest with you. As an artist, anyone that understands this, you hate your own work. So I'm putting it together and I'm like, yeah, that's not my best video I've ever done. And I think it actually looks pretty good, but I'm not a fan of it. Let's just say that. I hope that you enjoy it. It is going to be an unboxing. I was going to save this for after, but it's unboxing everything. It is unboxing the statue. It is unboxing the wearable cosplay helmet, the double-sided wrap for the Series X, and both controllers, the Elite and the special edition controller. I bought everything because I'm a big nerd and I love Doom. The only thing I didn't buy, and I've already thanked Bethesda for it, that was the review code for Doom: The Dark Ages. But yeah, thank you, Gamer by Choice. That appreciate the generosity. That video will go up as soon as this show is done. I have to finish, putting it together, then just kind of watch and listen to it. Make sure I cut out all it's a lot of production work. It'll be up later this afternoon, so get ready, folks, if you are interested in seeing all of the table of treats that is Doom: The Dark Ages. Jay Slay, generous friend of the program, drops an outstanding $5 super chat. He says, Boom, you use the reconciliation. It's my go-to. I have okay. No, I actually don't use that gun. That gun is dope. Which is the one? Okay, so this is gameplay that's months old. This is probably, I have it in my list of, because when I record the videos, I have like Black Ops gameplay number 1 through, I think I'm up to 10. I think this is actually during Christmas of last year because there was snow on Nuketown. So I'm pretty sure that this is old. You know what? I gotta take I'll DM you. My setup that I have now is so lethal. Like, I was never a shotty kind of a guy. I never really liked shotguns, but that Dragon's Breath, bro, like, I do so much damage with my shoddy. I have it as my secondary. My main, I think it holds 200 rounds. It's crazy. I'll send you what I have. It's pretty dope. But thank you, Jay. Super appreciate the generosity. We have here Aris_EMS, as he's done before, ladies and gentlemen. He has gifted $5 double barrel gaming memberships. Brother, that is crazy generous of you. Thank you so much for the continued support and the generosity. Mrs. Boom and I truly appreciate it. But Fuzzy, I do want to get into this topic. Now, this one, I think we're starting to see that June is going to be ridiculous because over the weekend, okay, thanks to Clovreel. Now, Clovreel, one of the prominent members of the Twitter community when it comes to putting out content. Well, he originally posted that this is both funny and a wishful thinking, but also let's start where it began. Fuzzy Belvedere, Ninja Theory took a picture of the team with a blurred out screen of what they are currently working on. I guess they were all there to see it in motion. And it basically said, this is an official post from ninjatheory.com, from Ninja Theory on Twitter. I said .com, ridiculous. It says, always great to come together at the studio and share with each other the work we've been doing. Hashtag life at Ninja. And I want to say it's about 20-ish people in the audience, and there's a blurred out screen. So Clovreel, so it's, he does what he does, right? So Clovreel put up a screen of the camera going close to the blurry image. And look, I don't like I'm not going to curse, but he basically said, "Oh f yeah." And when the screen gets super like close to it, it reveals an image saying Crackdown 4. Now look, here's the thing. I'm not gonna lie to you folks. I love Crackdown. I know Crackdown 3 got a lot of slack, but you know something? Honestly, Crackdown 1 was incredible. Crackdown 2, not so much. Crackdown 3 was pretty damn incredible considering that the tech that they showed off of them shooting through like the wall, that tech had to be like ripped out of the game, right? Because shame on Microsoft for not just paying who bought the tech. Hey, listen, let us use it. Here's a bag of money, right? They wind up pulling that tech, and the game still somehow came out, and I freaking loved it. So I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that there is still room in the world for Crackdown 4. Now, again, I think he was being incredibly facetious when he put that screen of Crackdown 4. But Fuzzy Belvedere, this original posting from Ninja Theory kind of tells me that, like in Exile, this is kind of like, hey everyone, we're going to be there in June. That's just my take on it. And again, could I be wrong? Sure, but I don't think I am. I think there's going to be quite a few games there that we knew are coming, and that we're going to get a more updated view of those games. Those two, Clockwork Revolution is one of them. I honestly believe what Ninja Theory is working on, which we know that they're currently working on Project Mara, which is a horror game. That could be shown for sure. But I also think that, we're going to get to see games, and we may even get updates. Some people don't want to see Fable again. You're wrong. I'll tell you that right now. Yes, show me more Fable. Let's see what's going on with Perfect Dark. Is that next year? Maybe we'll get an update on that. There's quite a few things that I would love to see them, update us with. But Project Mara is a game they've been working on a while. I don't think we're going to see Hellblade 3, which there's going to probably be a 3. I don't think that's in development. I've heard some people actually want to see them do something else outside of Hellblade 3. I don't know if Crackdown 4 would be the game. I think they could do anything they want, but I don't know if that's the team you specifically want working on it. But then again, why not? They're a very talented team. Do you think that this posting from Ninja Theory is kind of like a hey, we're going to be there in June announcement, or do you think that I'm overthinking it, Fuzzy Belvedere?
No, I think you're onto something as far as like with them being vocal, like we kind of mentioned earlier, with even with NXile, anytime their teams are vocal on social media, chances are they're going to be grouped into like an upcoming event, or they may have their own particular like developer direct. But I don't think that's the case as far as them having their own developer direct. But I do think that they make an appearance either with Project Mara or potentially something else at the June showcase, because I think after Hellblade 2 wrapped, they had already gotten the green light for Hellblade 3, but I think they wanted to do an additional project other than Project Mara. So maybe we do get to see a more completed version or a more up-to-date rendering of Project Mara, and then maybe an announcement for another title. And I know a lot of people would like to see them revisit some of their older stuff, although I don't think they can do another Devil May Cry kind of thing. But I forget the title. I think it was like something Enslaved or something like that. Maybe they get the
Enslaved
chance.
Journey to the West.
Yeah.
Yes. That was about the Monkey King. A lot of people don't know that. That was like a very like obscure version of it, and I think that would be, first of all, I would love to see that game remade personally. The game was amazing, and I'd love to see a sequel. But Ninja Theory, what was the game that came out for the PlayStation 3? That was a launch title that Ninja Theory did. What is the name of that game? Someone actually had said it earlier in the chat. Chat, help me out here. What was the name of that game with the it was a pair of sisters.
Yeah.
And
Heavenly
there it
Sword?
is, Rick L. Heavenly Sword. Now, I'm pretty sure Sony owns Heavenly Sword, unless Microsoft maybe bought it from them. A lot of people have been asking, hey, I'd love to see a Heavenly Sword type of game revisited. That actually would be not bad, to be honest with you. But I think Sony owns that IP. But Enslaved is an IP that Ninja Theory owns. That was a multiplat, and it'd probably be a multiplat again if they decided to remake it or do a sequel. But yeah, so Creative Monster says Heavenly Sword was really good. Yeah, you know what? It was good. The problem was the dual sense that they made you use. It wasn't that great. The minute they took that away, it was a much better game. I very much enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure I beat that game. Um, but so I mean, again, Fuzzy, do you think that this is kind of like we're going to start this? It's a trend I'm think is starting to happen. I think studios starting to get a little bit more vocal because June's around the corner. It started with NXile, and then almost right after that, Ninja Theory puts this post out there. I think they're telling us they're going to be there. I don't know what they're going to show. I think the safe assumption is, Project Mara, which is a horror game, but maybe it's something else as well.
Yeah, that studio is extremely talented, and what they've shown with Hellblade 2 as far as their talent within using Unreal Engine 5, and even some of the preliminary stuff that we saw for Project Mara. I'm wondering if it's like another taste study of what they've adapted in video games from what they did in Hellblade 2 moving forward. And maybe this will be a test case to see what they can put into Hellblade 3. But that was like pure cinema as far as Hellblade 2, and it played extremely smooth, which is something that not many studios have been able to do with Unreal Engine 5. Although Xbox Studios been seeming to do a lot better than other studios with Unreal Engine 5 based games. But yeah, fingers crossed, at least for me, I'm hoping it's Project Mara, because a horror game from within an Xbox studio, a current horror game would be awesome. Yeah. Maybe we even get to see something like that coming from Halo Studios with The Flood or something like that in the future. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping it's Project Mara that we get to see at the June showcase. But anytime you see a post, I can't guarantee this, but anytime you see a post within the next couple of weeks prior to the June showcase, kind of bank on that studio having something to show at the showcase. Like I'm also waiting to see if we get another update from Rare that's not Sea of Thieves related, because I also have a feeling that Everwild might make an appearance as well. But
oh man, that's another one. That's excellent. That's a good pick there. They've been working at that game for a while. And that's the thing. Look, you brought it up, so let's kind of like segue into a June showcase conversation.
Mhm.
Because I still want to stay on target with Ninja Theory, and I want to get your final points on that. But I think that they have so much to show. The question is, what are they going to show? Is this going to be a 2-hour affair? With the developer direct? Possibly. Is this an hour and 15 with a 45-minute for Obsidian's next game? Who knows? Right? Like it seems about right. Like it would be about a 2-hour show. But yeah, Ninja Theory bringing Project Mara, a horror game from first party, would be a massive deal. There's still OD, which is coming from Kojima, another potential horror anthology. Because again, if you remember, when they were talking about it, they said they had like the Avengers of horror directors being a part of this thing. I think it's going to be an anthology. That's just my thought on it. But you made mention of Everwild. Now, the reason why that game kind of went back and got reset is because they didn't know what type of game it was going to be. Right? You heard that from Jez Corden specifically of Windows Central. And well, now they got it figured out. They found the gameplay loop. We don't know what it's going to be, but I expect that to be there. That's a really good pick. What else do you think is going to be there?
Well, the one you mentioned, Kojima's game, OD, I really think, even though Death Stranding 2 is supposed to be released, I believe, this year as well,
Yep.
I think OD at least gets a showing and maybe a release date. Maybe it's early next year, like kind of in the Avowed slot type of thing. But I think that game, especially considering it was something for Stadia originally, considering development time, and he's pretty quick, even though like Death Stranding, I think went a lot faster than people think as far as from the time he first showed it to the time it released. And OD being showed, I think it was like last year at the Game Awards. I think it's one of those things where it's not too far off from being at least the first part of it, because like you said, if it's an anthology, maybe we get like a certain amount of the story beat with the initial release, and then maybe the following year some more stuff added or like updated chapters and such. But I'm hoping OD makes an appearance with like
Just a trailer to see exactly what it is. Because Eris_EMS says OD, he's got it tagged for 2027. And you know what? It's Kojima, so he's not wrong, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a launch title for the new console in 27. That actually makes sense, to be honest with you. And if the game needs time and it's Kojima, and you got to remember, this is very different from what Kojima regularly does. Like he makes a game and it's just long in development because there's a lot of tech that goes into it. But this isn't the first time, at least if I could, please correct me if I'm wrong. I've never seen him do an anthology type of release before. And what we mean by anthology is that there's going to be, like if you're a horror fan, Mrs. Boom and I love anthologies because usually what it is it's a lot of directors, usually 5 to 7 directors. They tell their story, but they all come together for the end of this movie that you're watching. And it's all different characters, and sometimes they meet up, sometimes they cross over. So I love the anthology, content.
Yeah.
And that's what this again. This is just an assumption, folks. I don't know OD is an anthology, but when he said that he had over the Avengers of horror directors, that kind of tells me that each director is gonna have a piece of this game, and it is cloud based, right? So it does seem like it could be a story that maybe doesn't even have an end. Maybe it has 14 directors or 20 directors, or they keep adding to it instead of making a OD2 or OD3. I don't know.
Yeah.
Am I making sense?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I think overall something like that would lend well to one being in Game Pass the way it will be, and just
Yes.
as far as the way horror games are in general, I think we've seen enough good examples with anthologies that would be a much better approach as opposed to waiting umpteen years to get all of the directors that he's going to be working with or partnering with on some of these stories to have everything wrap up. Like I think he could probably wrap up one main big story or a couple of big stories for the initial launch, and then have like not necessarily sequels, but the other chapters or the other parts coming out at a later date. And I think that would keep people engaged. One, possibly replaying the current games that he would release, and then looking forward to when the other ones come up, and probably revisiting the previous ones just before the other ones launch in like Game Pass and stuff like that. But OD is high on my list for wanting to see at the June showcase, or at least some sort of update. Contraband's another one. Although Contraband, I know we've heard some things in the background where, one of the, I guess, producers were leaving to work on another project. A lot of times that's either because they have already finished the previous project, or maybe he wants to try something completely different. But in any event, that's a game that, because of them having an inkling of saying car combat possibly, and it's almost like a think of like the car chase scenes from Fast and Furious, but pulling like maybe a bank vault behind you kind of thing, or something along those lines. Like I'm really curious to see what that game is going to be like, and the direction that they're taking that, because Avalanche Studios has been great with a lot of different games, and their I guess previous work in not Mad Max. What was the other one that they did that was similar, but it was under Bethesda? I forget the name of it now, but that one had some decent car combat, but you also had a lot more, first player or first person shooter aspects to it. But like, that's a game that I'm hoping makes an appearance at the June showcase.
Rage. Thanks, Meet the Cheater.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Rage was awesome. I beat that game. That game was dope. I'm sorry. That game was really good.
And if they have similar car combat to that in Mad Max, I'll be happily playing that as well. But another one I would love to see at the June showcase, I know it's probably a 26 title, maybe a 27 title, which would be Perfect Dark, which we know, quote unquote, they've had some struggles or some difficulty as far as the development. But I think most of that was in the early phases, and ever since they had what was it, Eidos Montreal, as well as
they've
Crystal Dynamics
gone radio silent, but supposedly they're cooking. Let's just say that.
And whenever they're radio silent and they got their heads down, cooking on the title, that means they're getting everything wrapped up for upcoming release date kind of thing. So I have a feeling that one is probably closer than we think. We did get to see, mix of CGI, or at least like some in-engine stuff from the previous showing of it. But I think it's a lot closer, considering Crystal Dynamics was the targeted team for the director to pick and work with as far as getting that game over the line. I think that one is probably targeted for 26. And then one of my other favorites that I talked about last time, hopefully making an appearance, State of Decay 3. Love State of Decay 2, having a State of Decay 3, Unreal Engine 5, possibly zombified animals in this one, maybe a bigger map overall, and an expansion on the story beat aspect, because they have it where you can basically do your own Walking Dead simulator in it currently, with like the way State of Decay 2 is. I think we'll get a lot more of that on a grander scale for 3, but they also started doing like more of that story-based stuff. And maybe not saying it'll go like full on like Dead Rising, or not Dead Rising, but like Days Gone level.
Yeah.
But I do think we get more like kind of like the pairing where it was like husband and wife, and I think like a brother and sister, and like I guess two sisters or something like that. You could choose like 2 or 3 pairs to pick from as far as the story beats and stuff. So maybe we get more of an expansion on that, on the mix of characters that you get to choose to follow through with the story aspect of it. But in any case, whatever's at the June showcase, I'm pretty sure we're going to be, truly excited. I know there's a few people that's like, well, I'm not as excited for the showcase because I'm busy trying to chip away at the amount of games. Well, whenever you have this many games that you have to like pick and choose, all right, do I play Oblivion now, or do I wait? Do I play Expedition 33 now? Can I go back to South of Midnight, or can I actually finish Avowed before I pick up another
Should I play
game?
Doom at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight? Yes, you should. Yes, you freaking should.
But with so many games, it's like, okay, that game is going to be on the backlog, and that game's going to want to be on the backlog until I finish. Or maybe you do like Pong Soul likes to say, like being a grazer. It's like, all right, that's a game I'm going to at least dedicate a few hours into, and if it grabs my attention before the other game comes out, I might be able to get to finish that one before I hop to the next one, type of thing. But yeah, I think this June showcase is going to be pretty exciting nonetheless, just for the fact that the way they delivered this year, from pretty much April of last year to now, I would say I'm going to be stoked no matter what. Still, the dark horse for me is Forza Horizon 6. Fingers crossed it's in Japan, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm still pretty excited nonetheless. But man, we do have a lot of games to get through between now and then. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Madness, bro. It is honestly like I know that the running riot, if you will, with Xbox is they had no games going back, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And you know what? People weren't wrong. I thought they had games, but they didn't have enough first party games. And I think that when you look at what's consistently coming into Xbox Game Pass through third party, and then you add all of their first party stuff, it's to a point where I don't know about you folks. I'm having like a super ridiculous difficult time trying to figure out what to play. Like I am like playing through Doom, and I'm not racing through it, which is why in my review at the time I only was at the little past the halfway mark. There are 22 chapters. I think I had gotten to chapter 13 when I sat down to do my review. I have over at that time well over 25 hours. And you say why? Well, because I like collecting the secrets, and I got 100% on half of the levels, and the other half I know that Will the Broke Boy Insider had said that he played and he got like 25%, and he was disgusted. I don't like seeing that either. I like seeing the 100%. And I'll be honest with you. I have a couple of levels that it says 99%, and I want to tear my mohawk off and throw it on the floor. Like I want to step on it because I'm like, what did I miss? Holy cow, 99 cents. But I'll eventually 100% every board of the 22 levels in Doom. I can't wait for people to get their hands on it. But look, Fuzzy, this has been a great show. We're at the $1.15 mark. I know that people want longer shows. We will have them when it's necessary. We got the 4 topics here. I think we all had a great time laughing. Everyone in the chat seemed to be incredibly engaged. So, of course, I want to thank everybody for checking that out. But let me just catch up on Super Chats, Fuzzy. We'll get everyone out of here. We have Nightwolf 3186 drops a very generous $2 Super Chat. Uh-oh, Fuzzy. He says, dang, Fuzzy, you stole my thought. Maybe that's the State of Decay 3. And I'm going to say this, folks, and I know the virtual tomatoes are going to come out. People do not want to hear this. People get so angry. Some of the comments that I've had are so raged that they're like, oh my God, Boom, why don't you stay in your lane if you don't like multiplayer games, you single player stooge? It's fine. I think that Xbox does multiplayer and single player games the best out of everybody. They really do. And I think that State of Decay 3 is going to be the survival type of game with zombies and potentially now zombie animals that you all know and love. With that said, and this is again taking a point from Fuzzy Belvedere, there were some single player aspects, story driven aspects with State of Decay 2. There was the one that my brother told me he absolutely loved with the ex-con and the cop. That was really, really good. I should have played it. I didn't. I don't know what happened, why I didn't play it, but I would love some story-based content that surrounds specific characters. I think there's a way where they could walk the fine line of keeping State of Decay 3 as it's known, from its roots of State of Decay 1 and 2. But I do think that there is room for potential DLC in the single player story driven aspect of it, which I'd like to see added to the game. Do I want the entire game being made like Days Gone? No, that I don't want. I want it to be State of Decay as everyone that knows and loves that game is. But I do think that there is room based on some of the content that they made with of course, Fuzzy made mention of the 2 sisters, and the husband and the wife, and now that my brother had told me about, there was this one where it was an ex-con that got out of prison with a cop. which is pretty good. So I think maybe they were testing the waters to see if people liked it, and a lot of people did, including my brother. But we also have a super chat here from Do You K Now, the Broke Boy Insider drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, if you got the Doom Collector's Edition with the disc, you can play earlier than tonight. I loaded it in and started it on Saturday. Holy sh! Folks, that's breaking news from, and no one stole your point. So I thought it was weird that you when you said that, and I'm like, man, I got the map in front of me. I know that it doesn't early access doesn't start until 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, you heard it right here from Will the Broke Boy Insider. He's been playing Doom the Dark Ages since Saturday. Um, and I don't know if that's a glitch or it's not, but I did know that some retailers did break the street date on the collector's edition statue. A lot of people got it early. I was one of them, and it is what it is. But yeah, that statue's dope. And again, folks, after the show, stay tuned. I'm probably gonna launch the unboxing around 8 p.m. as an instant premiere, right after the review goes up. So I'll probably put them both up tonight. So if you missed out on the Doom the Dark Ages Ask Me Anything, that's going to go live 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to re-upload it to YouTube. And of course, I got to put the finishing touches on my unboxing for Doom the Dark Ages, the collector statue, the wearable cosplay helmet, the wrap, and the 2 controllers. If you're interested in seeing what those look like, tune in. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And Fuzzy, let's get everyone out of here. And let's start first with where people could subscribe to your YouTube channel, which we, of course, want to see you get to 1,000 subscribers. And I know you kind of put your own channel on the back burner because you want to work with the wife. And well, let's talk about her podcast, because her podcast is a horror-based show. It's on Friday evenings. It's called Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is a fun, engaging, community-based kind of podcast. I know, of course, if you are a horror fan, this is the place where you should stop by and support her, support Fuzzy. Silent Cypher has become a regular guest on it. He's a big horror guy as well. Brother, sell the brand. Where can people subscribe to the YouTube channel, but more importantly, follow you guys on social media?
Well, as always, love doing this on Mondays and Fridays with you, Boom. Whether it's talking about breaking news or just the gaming industry as a whole, always love just chit-chatting about gaming and having fun with the watchers here, everybody in the chat. Love the interaction. Love the conversation as far as the games you guys are excited about, and just the platform you're cheering on, whether it's the same as mine or not. It's all about the fun we're having now with gaming. But for those that are interested in horror, definitely check out my wife's podcast, Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. Usually it's on Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right now we're on the road doing some filming stuff. We'll get to talk about that at a later date. But for an upcoming episode, I think it's going to be 2 weeks from now. We missed this past Friday because traffic getting to the filming location kind of backed us up a bit. But we're going to be talking about Studio 666. If you're a fan of the Foo Fighters and you want to see them in a horror film, definitely check that one out.
I saw that. That was actually hilarious. Yeah, it was really good.
It's a pretty good one. So if you've seen that movie, join us in like 2 weeks. Be in the chat. We can discuss it. And then after that, we're going to talk about Dropped, which is one that we saw in the theaters not too long ago. I think it's on streaming services to rent right now if you haven't seen it in the theaters. Another good one that I do recommend checking out. But yeah, we're just having fun talking about a lot of the, some older classics as far as horror films, some of the more campy ones that you might see on streaming services or Tubi or Shudder or something like that. And then every now and then we'll get like our favorites that are like some of the more recent releases that we'll discuss as well. So check us out Friday night, 6 p.m. usually, but it's a little bit of a 2-week hiatus, but we'll post some pics of what we're kind of working on now as far as the upcoming film and stuff. But man, this is a fun time to be a gamer, or even a fun time to be a horror fan as far as movies are concerned. But if you're into gaming, June Showcase right around the corner. I'm pretty sure your backlog is just as stacked as mine. Rolled credits not too long ago on Expedition 33. Awesome game. Waiting to do a spoiler cast with a few people that have finished it as well here soon, but be on the lookout for that. And I promise I will at some point make some more uploads for Forza related stuff, because now with the PlayStation Cats playing, they need some help. They need some tunes and some liveries for their cars, so they're not just driving just plain cars out there. We got to hook them up so at least they're competitive. So, but all in fun. Have a great week, guys, and look forward to seeing you guys Friday morning for Breakfast with Boom.
Shout out to Stage on X at Split Second and Call of Duty 4 are free on the Xbox store for a couple more hours. Split Second is a dope racer. I very much record. I actually started playing it last year and recorded some footage of it. It's really good. Thanks for the update and thanks for being here, Stage on X. And shout out to JDB SW67 in the chat, brother. I like to say hello to everybody. I didn't get a chance to type your name in, so I'm giving you a shout out live on the air. Again, if I missed you folks, it's not because I don't like you. It's just that I'm trying to actually message everyone that gets here. And sometimes it gets a bit overwhelming because I have multiple screens open. But I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that tuned in today. We had over 700 people watching live, which is freaking amazing. And look at that. Look at that. You're going to appreciate this, Fuzzy. The chat count 666. Oh no, what is happening? We started talking horror and here we are. But ladies and gentlemen, don't forget Doom the Dark Ages. If you got early access, try and play it, because Will the Broke Boy's been playing since Saturday, and that is pretty dope. So again, you're gonna want to play this game. It's really, really good. And of course, a big thank you to all of the super chats, the gifted channel member chats that we got in as well. Mrs. Boom and I are always going to be grateful. We never expect anything, but we are always incredibly grateful for when people do support the channel, because it does help us do a lot of the big giveaways, as well as kind of just keep the channel running. Again, this is a mom and pop type of organization that we do here. It's just me and her. And again, we like to, consistently give you the content, but, sometimes it costs a lot of money to get all the stuff off the ground. And that's where you guys and gals come in. By supporting the channel, you do allow for us to give back to the community, which is super important to us, but also behind the scenes on the back end, keep up to date with the lighting, with the microphones, with the headsets, and of course, all the programs that keep this channel running. So we're always going to be grateful for that. And of course, I'm going to close out the show, folks, with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day will be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.